Hello, and welcome back to another lesson in our Preparing to Apply section. The topic of this lesson is recommendation or reference letters. These are letters written about you by someone who knows you well and submitted as part of your application. Recommendation letters are a critical part of your application, so it's really important that they represent you well. Over the next few minutes, I'll say more about what they are, how you submit them, why they're so important, what makes a great letter, and how to go about requesting them. Let's begin. Recommendation letters are short written statements that describe your personality, academic history, school and personal achievements, work history, extracurricular activities, and other things related to your overall suitability for admission at a college or university. They're written about you by someone who knows you well, like a former teacher, guidance counselor, professor, or employer. Recommendation letters are usually required for undergraduate students and always required for people applying for graduate study. In fact, grad applicants typically need 3 recommendation letters. Like an academic transcript, they should either be submitted by you in a sealed envelope or directly by the person who writes them. Because most schools' applications are now online, direct submission is the most common way to get a reference letter to a school. This is how it works. After registering to apply, you'll be asked to invite one or more recommenders to submit a letter by entering their name and email into the application system. The system then automatically sends them a message with instructions about how to submit a letter for you. It will then also let you know when they've uploaded the recommendation letter. Recommendation letters are a really important part of your application. The reason for this is because admission officers want an overall sense of who you are. Since it's unlikely they'll meet you in person, doing this is just not possible by looking at your class, grade, and test scores. That's where these letters come in, and the essay or statement of purpose that you will write. Each plays a huge role in explaining your character, your intellectual and personal qualities, and your life goals. For undergraduates, admission officers like to see recommendation letters written by former teachers, since they've interacted the most with you and know how you get along with other students. Guidance counselors are another great resource for these letters because they likely also know you personally and have information about your overall academic abilities and accomplishments. If you're seeking admission to a graduate program, university professor recommendations are most important, and letters from former employers can also be helpful. It's not recommended that letters come from family members, since it's assumed they're going to be biased. So what makes a great recommendation letter? Great letters all contain a similar set of features. They are enthusiastic and focus on positives, discuss both personal and academic qualities, focus on a few important points, include specific examples, are well written and use strong, expressive words, are approximately 1 full page in length, and are written by someone who knows you well and wants to do a good job for you. By contrast, bad letters are boring and include less than positive traits about you, don't describe you as a whole person, repeat information that can be found in your resume, don't include specific examples, are poorly written and generic, are too short or too long, and are written by people who don't know you well. Recommendation letters should guide the reader through the narrative in a logical way. The following format is recommended. Letters should begin with a 3 to 5 sentence introduction, then include 2 body paragraphs, each 4 to 6 sentences long, and finally end with a 3 to 5 sentence conclusion. As a general rule, recommendation letters should not be more than 1 page in length. Here's a closer look at these sections for an undergrad recommendation letter. The purpose of the introduction is for the recommender to say who they are and how they know you. They might also mention the specific school you are applying to and/or highlight what else they're going to talk about. Here's an example. To whom it may concern, It is my pleasure to recommend Maximilian, whom I taught in my 11th grade history course. He is one of the most caring and driven students I've ever taught. The first body paragraph should focus on a few of your academic strengths and interests and include specific reinforcing examples. For instance, Wan Ho is one of the most talented writers I've had the pleasure of teaching in my 10 years at Seoul High School. He demonstrates a nuanced understanding of literature and produced a particularly thought-provoking thesis paper on spirituality in Native American literature. The first paragraph might also focus on your development, community service, and/or interactions with others. For example, Olga brings an infectious energy and enthusiasm to her fellow students and teachers. As class president, she organized fundraisers and events that raised money for class projects and were enjoyed by all. Last spring, she organized a talent show for our school. The event was recorded and is now available on our YouTube channel, which Olga and her fellow student council members set up and have managed all year. The second body paragraph should focus on your personal strengths and personality, especially those things that may not be mentioned in other parts of your application. And again, it's important to include meaningful examples. For instance, not only is Mohammed an outstanding history student, but he also displays exceptional strength of character. When you speak to any of his teachers, the first word that comes up is integrity. He's an honest and caring young man and is committed to upholding positive values in our school. When administrators revised the student handbook last year, Mohammed volunteered to review and provide input for the section on academic integrity and plagiarism. He helped promote these ideas throughout the school by staying late to lead discussion groups on what contributes to student cheating. The conclusion of a recommendation letter should repeat the recommender's support for you and offer a vision of how you will perform in the future, both in terms of your personal achievement and your contributions to the school community. It should also invite admission officers to contact the recommender if they want any additional information about you. Here's an example. Alma is a trustworthy, reliable, and good-humored student who supports others in and out of the classroom. She was a pleasure to have in class, and her positive attitude is an immensely admirable asset. I'm confident that she will continue to demonstrate the same diligence, perseverance, and optimism at Super University that she showed me and her peers. I highly recommend Alma for admission to your undergraduate program. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at the following email. Finally, it's advised that recommendation letters, if sent as paper copies, be printed on official school letterhead and include the recommender's actual signature. Recommendation letters for grad programs should be written by university professors who know you and understand your intellectual abilities and interests. The format of grad program recommendation letters should be similar to those I just discussed. Their content should be different, however, since they're meant to demonstrate that you have successfully completed an undergrad program and are now looking for advanced training in a particular subject area. Grad program letters are generally less descriptive and anecdotal, and should instead focus on direct examples of your academic work. In addition, grad letters should comment on your ability to conduct high-level research, write at a high level, be responsible to the research team, and be a creative thinker. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, grad program applications typically require that you submit recommendation letters from 3 different people. Now that you know why recommendation letters are important and what goes into a great one, you're ready to begin the process of requesting them. So what do you do? At GoStudy, our advice is that you first make a list of personal accomplishments to include things about you that your recommender may or may not already know. List the following, plus anything else you feel is important to include. Your future goals, for instance, where you will apply and what kind of work you want to do after graduating. class-related accomplishments, for instance, your grade point average and any academic awards you've received. Out-of-class accomplishments, such as clubs or sports that you have participated in. Community activities or volunteering that you've done. And any personal information you think might be good for them to know about, like being a top student while working a full-time or part-time job, or being the first person in your family to go to college. Next, decide who you'll ask to write a letter for you. It may be more than one person. This is a key step since you want someone who knows you and supports your interest in studying in the United States. Whoever you ask, they should be someone who knows you well and who'll take the time to write a very good letter for you. Once you've identified one or more recommenders, ask if they'd be willing to help. If they are, give them a copy of your accomplishment list and any other information about you that might be helpful. Also, tell them when the recommendation letter is due and explain the process for submitting it. And remember, it's really important that you give them plenty of time to help. Don't wait until the last minute to ask. That's not fair to them, and it could impact the quality of the letter they write. Once they have the information they need, it's a good idea to check to make sure they've submitted the letter for you on time. If they haven't, you should give them a polite reminder a week or so before the letter is due. And don't forget to thank any recommenders for taking the time to write for you. Finally, if someone will be writing for you in a language other than English, the letter will need to be translated before it's submitted. To do this, you can request that your recommender send you a digital copy of the letter that you can then send on to a reputable, high-quality translation service. Okay, that will do it for this lesson. We've covered a lot of information, so I hope it's been helpful for you. Now, on to the next lesson.